Good morning. Thank you. My name is Mary McKinney and I serve as the Director of Residence Life and Housing Services. I'm a double alum of Westchester University. I did not stay here the entire time. I have worked at UMass Amherst, Old Dominion, the University of New Hampshire, and all of those opportunities have afforded me the ability to come back to Westchester and serve as the Director of Residence Life, and I have been here for 20 years.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chloe Webb, and I serve as the Resident Director in Commonwealth Hall. I, too, am a double alum of Westchester University, and I have been here the entire time since 2010. I've worked in various positions within the Department of Residence Life, and I love Westchester so much that I'm getting married as a Ram, and I have my little baby girl as a Resident Director, so she's a Ram, too. So I love being here, and I know you and your student are going to love being a Golden Ram just as much as we do.
Yeah, Chloe's a keeper. I didn't want her to leave, so she's a permanent member of the staff, very excited. So we're going to be having a really informative conversation with you today. We're going to give you all of the information so you can help us help your student make well-informed decisions, knowing what consequence is already associated with that decision. So in our session, we're going to be going over our facilities, living on campus, the RAMI card, staffing information, the roommate and assignment information, the roommate agreement and expectations we have of your student, policies and community living, items that we need for you to remember to bring, and those that we definitely need for you to keep at home. Dining at WCU, drop and go, and we ask that you hold your questions to the end. If we run out of time and you're going to be dismissed for lunch, Chloe and I will remain in the front so we can answer all of the questions that you might have before leaving Aspen.
So if you haven't had a chance to tour our wonderful residence halls, I'm going to highlight some of the really cool things your students get to experience living with us. First is cable television. There is cable TV provided for your student free of charge. They just need to bring the proper coaxial cord or HDMI cable in order to connect. There's also kitchenettes in our residence hall, so should students choose to bake or cook one night versus eating on campus, there's convection ovens in there, they're overhauled, they were renovated, they're awesome. And there's also amenities in there for them to use during their time in the residence halls. There's laundry rooms, either on each floor or in one central location at each residence halls. And traditional housing now has free laundry too. So there is no excuse for your student to bring home bags and bags of laundry when they come home to visit you, because they can do it here for free. Yes, it's super exciting. So just keep that in mind. There's also computer labs located in our residence halls, so if your student doesn't have the ability to or doesn't want to bring a computer or a laptop or have a printer, they have the ability to do that in our halls too. We have Wi-Fi accessible all throughout campus, in particular in our residence halls, and there's a Wi-Fi channel for those avid gamers that want to bring their PlayStation, Xbox, what have you, to play Fortnite when they're not in class. We have really awesome study lounges in our halls as well, so these provide quiet opportunities for your student to study, get homework done if the library or their room is too distracting. And one of the last things we want to highlight is the TV lounges. So these are the really cool spaces in our halls that have big screen televisions, they have PlayStations, a whole bunch of video games, movies, you name it, we probably have it. And if we don't have it, we ask that you or your student let us know and advocate for that, because we are always looking to improve and to add things to our building to make your students' experience the best it absolutely can be.
Alrighty, so let's talk about living on campus. We have 5,150 students who live on campus. So that means 5,150 different perspectives and views on life. So you can imagine we're working really hard at creating a conducive environment for all, and that's why we have our policies and procedures. We expect for everyone to read the Guide to Residential Living as well as our Student Code of Conduct. Our students are required to know their rights and responsibilities, and so we encourage you to read our guide, to read our Student Code of Conduct. Everything is online. It is easy to find. It is going to be imperative that your student understands what they're going to be held accountable for, because responding with, "I didn't know," won't be accepted, especially when we have everything at the fingertips, right? Everybody's fingertips. So please make sure that they do that. We also have security and police on campus. Our security officers enter our residence halls at quarter of eight every evening. And so they secure the hall. There's only one entrance to enter or exit every residence hall at that point in time. Every student will receive a color-coded sticker that is associated with their respective building. And so they're going to be required to show their WAMI card when entering the building. And so we want to make sure that our students cooperate with that. We also have police officers on campus. There are around 25 police officers. They've all gone through the police academy. These are real police officers with real arresting powers. We also have a canine unit. His name is Remy, a beautiful, beautiful black lab. You can see him on campus. He's fun, he's loving, but rest assured that if he sits down next to you, that does not mean he likes you, all right? And so we will be letting your student know that as well. So let's talk about your RAMI card. Your student is going to be receiving their card today if they have followed the instructions with uploading their photo. This will give them access to their residence halls and USH rooms. We're trying to get all that happening. RAMI bucks, or RAM bucks. This is the equivalent of like our Starbucks app or our Wawa app or a gift card. And so you're going to have the ability to purchase RAM bucks at the end of the day in front of the SSI window to put extra money on your student's card. This would be beneficial if your student is going uptown to one of the eateries, and you'll see at the front door where it'll say, accepts RAM bucks. Our food trucks, some of them accept RAM bucks, and it's just really convenient for the student. This has nothing to do with the meal plan. This is separate, all right? Your meal plan is on the RAMI card as well. Your student's meal plan is on the RAMI card. And so it's your everything card. And now your meal plan comes with flex dollars. When you purchase a meal plan, I believe it's 250 flex dollars that your student receives. And so they're going to need to learn how to manage their meal plan, because otherwise the meal plan will manage them. And when your student comes back in August, my staff will make sure that they go over everything in detail. Because here's the reality, we're going to be going over everything with your student at 1:30 today, and it is not my expectation that they're going to remember everything. Today is an overwhelming day, a lot of information coming at your student. So in August, Friday, August 23rd, they will be receiving a little cheat sheet to help them understand how to use their meal plan. One meal swipe is the equivalent of $5.60. And that's going to be important to know when you're eating anywhere outside of the Lawrence Dining Hall. The dining hall is one meal swipe, and it's all you can eat. So that is honestly the best deal for what you're paying. And you're going to be eating in the dining hall later on after this session. And just check it out, see what's going on, God bless you, and see what's going on. And I think that you're going to find that the food, for one, is great, and there's a lot of various different options that your students are going to be able to participate in. Let's continue talking about dining at WCU. So I want to go back, I'm going to skip down to the bottom. We have a full-service Chick-fil-A on campus, and I'm going to tell you right now that is the longest line on campus, right? There are students that are snaked around there waiting to eat. I'm going to be letting your student know that they really need to be savvy when it comes to using their meal plan here. A Chick-fil-A sandwich meal is $6.49. One meal swipe is $5.60, which means that they need to use 89 cents in their flex dollars. What has happened in the past, students are like, oh yeah, 2 meals. So they swipe 2 meals. Now they have just given Aramark $4.71. How many of us go to Wawa and tell them to keep the change? Because we've got a money tree in our yard, right? We don't. And so we need to help our students and educate them that they need to communicate with the cashier, you know what, I'd like to use 1 meal, and I'd like to use the rest in flex dollars. And so then that one, and always ask for a receipt. They can follow their meal plan on an app. They can download the app, and it's called Tap and Go. It was first introduced to me as Topingo, and I'm like, Topingo, that's kind of cool. But then my staff on Tuesday, they're like, no, Marion, I think it's Tap and Go. And I'm like, well, they said Topingo. Anyway, if you go into the App Store and you type in TAPINGO, your student needs to download that app and they can follow and track their meal plan. And we're going to encourage your student to do that as well when they get here. My RAs will say, okay, everybody whip out their phone, let's go to the app store, this is what you're looking for, all right? And we're going to explain it to them in huge detail. Your meal plan, your meals will roll over week to week, all right? So if you don't use all 14 meals, you'll have more the following week to use. You get 5 guest meals per semester. And so if you have friends coming up or you guys come up to visit them, they can swipe you into the dining hall and it's all you can eat, right? So you might want to have your student follow what they're serving in the dining hall because the menus are available as well, and determine whether or not you want to come up and participate in a meal. Flex dollars roll over from semester to semester and yearly. However, in their senior year, they do not want to have a huge balance on their card because you will not be reimbursed for that. And so you want to manage that as well. So make sure that your student is keeping track of that. We expect our students to treat all of our staff on campus with dignity and respect. That comes from housekeeping, to grounds, to maintenance, to faculty, staff, to Aramark, to our partners, to each other. We need for them to treat each other well. Should something happen, your student needs to let us know immediately so we can address it. We do not ignore it. Last semester, we had a young lady that was going to one of our eateries, which is going to remain unnamed on campus, and for whatever reason, the young woman behind the counter, they were of equal age, kept on harassing this student. And so it made for an uncomfortable time. As soon as we know, we address it and we deal with it. And so please let us know if any of your student is experiencing anything on this campus, because it's not going to be tolerated. You pay way too much money for your student to attend Westchester University, and we take that very seriously. And so please understand that we take our student code of conduct serious. We take everything serious because we want to make sure, like Golden Rams take care of Golden Rams. And we've always done that, and we're going to continue doing that. And so we need your help to make sure that that happens. We ask that our students pay for everything that they eat. Unfortunately, sometimes they forget that they put things in their bags, right? And so we want to make sure that they don't put themselves in a compromising situation. So again, make sure you pay for everything that you eat. Carry your used dishes to the dish room. You'll see how easy it is after lunch, how they can, take their dishes to the dish room. You'll be amazed at how some of the students don't feel like doing that. And then when I see it, I follow them out of the dining hall and bring them back in and have them clean their table. Because it's imperative. We're not going to, we have over 1,000 students. We have 5,150 that live on campus. 3,000 are required to, over 3,000 are required to have a meal plan. There's a lot of students that go through that dining hall, and we need to take care of each other, and we have the responsibility of doing that. And we want for your students to understand what the price is for everything. Again, Financial Planning 101, this is a great time for them to really start managing their meal plan. It's an easy thing to do, and we're going to assist your student in doing that. So just wanted to make sure that this presentation that we're giving you right now, your student is going to be getting the same one at 1:30, just with a little extras.
So I'm going to talk to you about the phenomenal staff that we have in our residence halls. First, we have resident directors like myself. We are full-time employees here at the university with our bachelor's degrees in higher education, and we love what we do. Trust me, I think we're awesome. And you'll find us in the high-rise residence halls as well as working in the apartment complexes on South Campus. We then have graduate hall directors. These are graduate students working towards that master's degree in higher education here at Westchester, and you'll find them working in the low-rise residence halls as well as the small apartment complex all on North Campus. And then lastly, we have graduate assistants. These are, again, graduate students working toward that same master's program. And you'll find them assisting in supervision and facilitating lots of different things in each of the residence hall buildings with the resident directors and graduate hall directors. We make up part of the professional staff team, and it's important to know about us that we live in the building. When students find that out, they're kind of like, ooh, we really do? Yes, we really do. We are a part of the community with your students. So you'll find us walking around sometimes at all hours. I'm a night owl, so sometimes when the always do rounds, I'm hanging out in the lounge, we're talking to security, getting to the students that come in and out. We attend events, we go to programs. We're really intrusive when it comes to making sure that everybody is safe and secure and having a great time, because we want to be a part of that community in order to establish that. We're also university hearing officers, so that means that should a student choose to violate any of our code of conduct policies, any policy in our guide to residential living, they're required to meet with one of us to discuss that violation and what happened and what occurred, and how they choose to move forward in their student conduct process. So that's really important to know too. And then lastly, we help plan and facilitate intentional student engagement activities for your students to participate in. And this is really important. So we follow a residential curriculum, and every event that is planned is intentional for your students' learning. So we don't just kind of have things to have things. There is a reason, there's a rhyme and reason for every single thing we do in the residence halls. The university also has a co-curricular transcript, and our residential curriculum feeds right into that. So what's really cool about that, and that comes from the Division of Student Affairs, is that your student will get kind of like a resume, a printout of everything that they've done here at West Chester University, all the activities they participate in, and it's literally like a transcript. So it's really cool. It's a really new initiative that we're pushing forward, and it's going to be really great for your students at graduation. So when we say come to our events, we really want our students to come to our events because there is a reason and a learning component to every single thing they do, and it'll feed right into their learning here at West Chester University, just outside the classroom. So to talk about our undergraduate staff, we have resident assistants. So these are high-achieving undergraduate students. I don't even know how we did it sometimes, because they go to class and get those 3.5s and above, because that's how awesome our undergrad staff is. And then they come back to the residence halls. They live on the floor, they're planning and facilitating events, they're walking around, getting to know your students, being really intentional about the interactions they have, because they want to make sure your students having fun, that they're safe, and also that they uphold our policies here at West Chester University. And then lastly, we have desk assistants. So these are the smiling faces you'll find working the front desk during the year. So they are really awesome with questions, making sure your students know where they're going. They help with mail and packages, and if your student gets locked out, they'll even help them get back into their room with a third key. So our undergraduate staff, they're amazing, and they're going to be coming here really soon, and I'm really excited. So what's important to know about all of us is that we are campus security authorities. So that means that if we are a witness to a crime, or if a crime is reported to us, we are mandated by law at all times to report that crime to the authorities and through the proper channels. We are not confidential resources that way, and there are no exceptions to that rule. We're also trained in fish philosophy, which is a really awesome customer service practice, as well as mediation and restorative justice practices. So anytime your student has a concern, whether they're going through something personal, or their roommates aren't getting along, or they're not getting along with someone on the floor, we're trained to talk them through what happened and what occurred and how they want to handle that process, so that we can get everybody in a space together, in a safe space together, to have those really important and tough conversations so that they can move forward with their enjoying their time here at West Chester. So roommate matching. I'm sure this is one of the many questions that you have. I'm on the administrative part of the time here. So for those who are living in USH and affiliated, this is done through the online leasing portal. So just please make sure that your student is paying attention to all the instructions and emails that they're getting related to that process. For those that are living in traditional, this is happening now and will happen through July. So your student has the option to either choose someone specifically that they know they want to live with. That person then has to choose them, and then they'll be matched that way. Or they can create a profile through the My College Roomie portal, and they can select each other that way. But it's important that your student participates in that if they're going to choose to do it, because they're going to get messages back and forth from students, and they need to answer those messages and make decisions in that way. Otherwise, that they will not have taken full advantage of that service, and they won't have the ability to pick their roommate that way. So if they choose not to participate in any of these options in order to select a roommate, they will be assigned a person to live with. And we strive to make sure it's a first-year student, but that's not guaranteed. So they could live with a sophomore or a junior in their first year. So please make sure that your student is, being that guide, making sure they're reading all the emails, paying attention to all the deadlines, because if they miss out on this window to pick their roommate, they really won't have the ability to do it after the deadline. And then assignments. So for those that are living in USH, this is an ongoing process. So some of your students are already receiving their assignment information. So they just need to make sure that they're reading that email to make sure that that's accurate to what they chose and who they choose to live with and things like that. But it's important to know that rent is due on August 2nd. So I know a lot of students have questions about financial aid. They have to talk to USH about making sure their financial aid will help them with their housing, because it is not connected and will not automatically pay their bill. And if you do not pay your rent by August 2nd, and if you haven't figured that, like how to do that, you will not be able to participate in drop and go or be able to move in on move-in day. They will not let you, they'll stop you at the door. So please make sure, again, being that guide and that support, that your student is paying attention to the emails so that they can really, make sure that they can move in and not get stopped at the door. And just know too that for both properties, assignment information and roommate information is subject to change throughout the summer and sometimes even on move-in day because of different things that happen with different students making different decisions. So just make sure again that they're paying attention to the email communication about that. And then for traditional housing, you're going to get this information, but you're going to get it into your student's Westchester email address, so that's the only place they're going to see it, and they're going to get it the week of July 29th. So this is going to include the building and the room they're assigned, the roommate's contact information, and all the move-in day instructions and details, so that they can begin having those conversations about who's bringing what and things like that. So make sure, again, your students are checking their email every day, because that's where they're going to get their communication.
Alrighty, so let's talk about what we expect roommates to do. We take the roommate agreement that we provide seriously, and we expect them to do the same. On August 23rd, when they move in, they're going to have a floor meeting that evening, and the RA is going to provide them with this document. There's going to be various different questions on there with regards to how they're going to be establishing their boundaries, what they're going to accept, what they're not going to accept, and I'm going to encourage your student to establish those boundaries unapologetically. It's really important that they do that. We want for them to communicate honestly, authentically, and clearly, appropriately. And we want for them to let us, communicate the boundaries. Here's the thing, unfortunately what happens, we have a lot of students that come in and they're afraid to do that. And they want to be liked, and so they'll say, oh yeah, sure, I'll share. And sharing is relative. Because sometimes students are like, oh, you'll share, and then they'll eat all of your students' snacks. And so then when it's time for your student to have a snack, they don't have any. And so specificity is really, really important. And so we're going to be working with your student to do that. We also want to make sure that when a problem arises, you need to tell a staff member immediately. Your student needs to tell a staff member immediately, but they're not going to do that. The first thing that they're going to do is call you, and then you're going to hear it all. And then they're going to end the conversation with, Mom, don't say anything. Do not call, do not get involved, all right? Or Dad, whatever you do, just stay calm, don't call anybody. And then you're going to be like, sure, not a problem. You're going to go to sleep, and the next morning, because you'll be calm, you're going to call us. And you're going to let us know what's going on. I promise you, we are not going to tell your student, oh, well, your mom called, or your dad called. We're not going to do that. We're going to conveniently run into your student. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Right? And depending on the severity of the situation, we might even, get the RAs involved and just kind of have these conversations. And we're going to ask them what's going on, how their day is going and whatever else. And sometimes we're able to be like, hey, you know what? We were walking down the hall and we heard some people talking and they were saying some things and we're just trying to figure out what's going on. Can you help us? Right? Not in public, obviously in private. So sometimes they'll share with us and sometimes they won't. We're going to encourage them to do that. One of the things that Jared was talking about earlier was FERPA. We cannot give you information about your student unless your student gives us permission. So I always ask for students to give us permission to talk with a parent. You would be amazed at the information we get, because sometimes students are like, yeah, no, I don't want you talking to my parents, because they know I'm going to tell everything, right? And so please know that when your student calls you, you only have one side of the situation, and sometimes that side is selective, right? I've got a daughter who's coming here in the fall as well. And she's learned very early on that she needs to tell me the whole story. Because when she was I think she was in elementary school, and this is how far back it goes. All weekend long, she was harassing my husband and I about something that happened at daycare. Now, mind you, she was in 5th grade, right? Going on and on and on. I was like, fine, you know what? Monday morning came, I was like, I am going to go and talk to so-and-so. And then I paused and I'm like, listen, Taylor, I need to finish putting on my lipstick, but here's what I want for you to think about. Are you sure you told me everything? Because here's the thing. I'm going to go and speak with this individual. And if I learn anything new that you just happen to forget to tell me, when I get home after work, you will have a problem. So just think about that for a moment. I go put on my lipstick, I'm walking out the door, she's like, Mom, you know what? I just remembered. And so, guess what? Keep that in mind, because you're not going to have all of the information. One of the things that we do when we find out what's going on, we talk to all of the individuals involved. If King Solomon can do it and get all sides of the story before making a decision, guess what? We do that as well, and that takes time. And while you may have been dealing with things for months, because you may not have told us, as soon as we find out, we contact everyone. We treat everyone with dignity and respect, and we don't shame them. And we give them a safe space to talk. I always say, listen, when you're talking to me, you're in Switzerland. I'm not going to use what you say against you, even if you violated policy. We need all of the information so we can make well-informed decisions. All right, and this is not getting back to your parents unless you give me permission to do so. And they're like, oh, okay, well then let me tell you everything. And I'm like, okay, great, this is good. We use restorative justice practices because I'm going to tell you, it provides an opportunity for healing and for restoring individuals back into the relationship. And while they may not like each other, there's going to be a respect of individuals being able to speak their truth. And it's really important that that happens. We assist roommates in rewriting their roommate agreement, because guess what? When they write it the first time, they're not really specific. And I'm going to be letting your students know that, you know what, people will treat you the way you allow them to treat you. And so it's really important that you communicate those boundaries and what you expect from others. And then we also reserve the right to remove both roommates should they just, dig their heels in. Many times and oftentimes, both individuals have responsibility for what's going on in that room. Very few times is it just one person that's at fault. So if and please understand that I'll go more into detail with examples later, but I definitely want to make sure that everybody has a clear understanding. The one thing that I need for you as parents to do is to please stay out of it. Because when you get involved and you start putting pressure on your student to dig in and to stay in there, the anxiety and angst that is created for that student is honestly ridiculous. Because they really want to move, but they're like, well, my mom and dad said that I can't, I have to stay. I'm like, well, do you want to stay? Well, I really don't. But I don't have a choice. They pay for my college. And I'm like, okay, And so please don't put that added pressure on your students. Not that any of you would, I just wanted to let you know this is what we deal with all of the time. And your students are resilient and really wanting to work things out. So allow them that experience. And it's okay to sit in there, and it's okay for you to sit in your discomfort and for them to sit in theirs. And just trust the process, because we really want to work with your student and help them through this.
So here's some of the things that you want to make sure your student brings with them, because they're going to need them throughout their time here. We have a larger list on our website, so I'm just going to highlight some really key things. First is our linens. The bed sizes are twin, extra long, so just make sure when you're perusing Target, Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, what have you, Dormify My Room, that's the size that you need for your space. If you're living in USH, your student needs to talk with their suite mates, their roommate, about who's bringing a shower curtain, because that is not provided in the space. And also, every student in USH should bring a surge protector. And I'll talk to you a little bit in the other slide about why a surge protector is the only thing that they're allowed to have. And for those that living in traditional, that surge protector is already provided for your student, so you don't need to worry about purchasing one. You want to talk with each other about bringing TVs, radios, noise machines, sound machines, different things like that, stereos. 2 really quick points. I promise you a 65-inch television is not going to fit. So do not let your student convince you otherwise. As well as the stereo systems, the surround sound that has the 20 speakers and the 5 subwoofers and with the bass that's just awesome. They cannot have that bass in the residence halls. So just keep that in mind too. If your student wants to have a small water to microwave and a mini fridge, by all means. They also have the ability to rent one for the year as well, and there'll be a vendor at the parent-family reception that can give you more information about how to do that. And they'll also need cleaning products and laundry detergents because they are responsible for cleaning their room and doing their laundry. Deep breath, they will figure it out. So just keep that in mind as well. If your student wants to have a computer or a printer or a laptop with them, by all means, but just also know that they have 125 free prints a week that they can utilize the printers on campus for that. They don't have that ability if they bring their own printer. And there's computer labs all over campus, and I believe the library is now open 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. I think I heard that somewhere. So they don't really need to have one if they don't want to or don't have the ability to have one. But if you're going to bring a wireless printer, just know that they need to take it to IT or ResNet to have it configured. Because there's something inside the printers that messes up our Wi-Fi signal, and if IT finds it, they'll confiscate it. So just please keep that in mind too. And then lastly, trash cans, because the pizza boxes that they collect don't smell great forever, and they have to take out their trash. There is no maid service in the halls. So just keep that in mind, that if you want to buy one, buy a really decent sized one because they have to take those trash bags out to the dumpster or to the trash rooms on the floors. So here's what needs to be left either at home or like somewhere far, far away because you might not even want it in your home. Unlawful extension cords. So the students have to have a surge protector because they have to have that surge suppression built in. There are times with storms or different things that are happening on campus with the construction that the electricity could go in and out or could go out. So it's really important that they have that surge protector because that will cut off the circuit when that happens. Extension cords do not have that ability, and your student could have a spark or there could be an electrical fire, and we don't want that. So please make sure that for USH you're buying the surge protectors, and for traditional you don't purchase any extension cords or surge protectors because we give you the one that you're required to use in your room. Message boards. So I know your students are looking at all the fun things they can have for their rooms, and just imagine every door with a message board on it and somebody just writing, drawing some really inappropriate things on them because that's just where they are. And that does not provide a conducive environment for everyone, and it does not breed a positive community. So they cannot have message boards on the outside of their doors. And I also want your students to really think about, do they want them in their rooms too? Because that's just another way for passive aggressive communication to breed, and that doesn't help the roommate relationship. So just keep that in mind when you're shopping, but you absolutely can't have them hanging outside the doors. The pets have to stay home with you. So that puppy they really wanted, the fish, the snake, hamster, gerbil, cats, we've seen so many different things come through the building, so many animals come through the building, and none of them are allowed. So there is a no pet policy, so please be mindful of that. It's crazy to say don't bring your own bed, but every year someone tries to bring a full queen-size mattress in the bed frame with them, and then have their roommate still have space to sleep in the room, which is mind-boggling to me, but it happens. So just know in advance, your student does not and cannot bring their own bed. They need to sleep somewhere when they go home, and we provide them with a bed frame and mattress. And also refrain from purchasing the large furniture items too, because your student has to be able to evacuate in a properly manner should there be an emergency, and large furniture could impede their ability to do that. Routers. So like I mentioned earlier, there's Wi-Fi all over campus, including a Wi-Fi channel for those gamers and the smart TVs. So Resident and IT walk through the residence halls at the beginning of every semester and throughout the year, and if they find something that's messing up the signal with the university, they will confiscate it. So that's why your student does not and should not bring their own router, because they don't need it. And they don't want to, lose out on all that money they spent just to have it taken away from them. They need to make sure they have the traditional laundry detergents or Tide Pods. 3-in-1 sheets break our machines. You'll see them in the aisles. They have the detergent, fabric softener, and dry sheet in one. They will break our machines. But if you're going to purchase Tide Pods, just know that your student needs to make sure that the water hits them first, because sometimes they don't dissolve properly and they get the gunk all over your clothes and in the machines because they don't dissolve. Weapons are not permitted. So no guns, no knives, no BB guns, no fake guns that look like real guns, no ninja swords that they had to have because at the Ren Fair they were so cool and they just want to hang them on their walls. They can't have any of that. We will have to get the police involved and they will remove those items, so please keep that in mind. Anything with an exposed heating element is also not permitted. So these are things like hot plates, space heaters. They cannot have traditional coffee pots. They can only have Keurigs or single cup coffee makers. And the big ticket item here is candles. Your student cannot have a candle, regardless if they plan on lighting it or not. If they're just going to use it for decoration, they can't have it. It smelled great, it was on sale in Bath & Body Works. They still can't have them. Every year, the first day, at least 10 students get documented for having them because it is that big of a deal. So just please make sure your students not packing them or sneaking them in their bags. And then Mary's going to talk about this one in a few seconds, but all legal substances are also not permitted. So no alcohol, no drugs, no marijuana.
Alrighty, so this is the interactive part of our session. I'm going to put a question up on the screen, and if it applies to you, you just raise your hand. That would be helpful. How many of you here have students who have social media accounts? Please raise your hand. Right, mostly everyone who doesn't have one. So one of the things that we're going to be talking with your student about today, and this is not the first time that they have heard this, because I know you've been telling them this as well. They do not want to catalog their entire experience at Westchester University on social media. Not advisable, because it's questionable. We have student organizations that are combing through social media as well as employers to see if your student is the type of student that they want in their organization or providing an internship or employment. And so we want for your student to be mindful of how they represent themselves. And we're going to be talking to them about this this is not the first or last time that they're going to be hearing this. How many of you here have students who have a significant other? They think they're in love? Yeah, it won't last. No worries. All right. But here's the important thing. When your student moves in, their significant other does not, right? We have a visitation policy here at Westchester University, and every time your student wants to have a guest in the room, they have to talk to their roommate about that. Some of our students, even if they know each other, but they're random, your student is just becoming acclimated with their new roommate. We don't need to add another person to that equation. I'm going to tell you right now, the first phone call that you're going to be receiving is from your daughter, who is going to tell you that her roommate's boyfriend moved in and he's been living there, and you are going to be in orbit. What you're going to ask your student is like, well, did she ask you for permission to have a guest? And see what your student tells you. Because she may say, no, she didn't ask at all. And if she did ask, the follow-up question is, well, what did you say? How did you answer that question? Regardless, you're going to call us and let us know that there's a squatter in that space. And then we're going to conveniently go up to the room, because my staff does connections, and we're just going to happen to start with that room first. And ask about connections. How are you acclimating? Are you guys upholding our student code of conduct? How are things going? And then, should we find out, we're going to have the guest log and take a look at all of that, we will remove individuals' visitation privileges, because visitation is a privilege. Should they continue on violating our policy, we're going to start the process of removing your student from housing. They won't be removed from the university, they just can't live with us. You pay way too much money and put too much time into your student to have somebody else come in and just violate their rights. And we're going to help you with that process. It's a teachable moment for everyone. And we want to teach your student on how to behave, on how to acclimate, because it's going to be a huge transition for them. They're going to come to Westchester and they're going to think, freedom, I'm away from my parents, I can do what I want to do, ha ha ha. Well, guess what? They can't. They're going to be in for a rude awakening. I'll tell you that. And so please work with us. We also have students, and some of them are parents. Minors are not permitted in our residence halls, and neither are their children. We love children, but babies, crying babies, cannot live in our residence halls. None of the students paid for that. They didn't sign up for that for college. And so if you have a student who's a parent, please figure out daycare. And so we want to make sure that you have that information in advance as well. How many of you here have students who've consumed alcohol before? Please raise your hand. Okay, keep your hand up if they're 21. Right. I will guarantee you that we're going to be talking with your student at 1:30. They're going to get the same question. Well, how many of you guys have consumed alcohol? I've seen like maybe 30 hands here, maybe 30, right? I'm going to tell you right now, over 80 students are going to stand up. They're going to be like, yeah, I drink it. I'm like, okay. Here's the thing. Westchester University is a dry campus, but our students make it otherwise. They bring a lot of alcohol into the residence halls. And then they invite 20 of their BFFs that they just met 5 minutes ago into their room, and they're going to get their drink on, right? And they're going to think that they're quiet. How that happens, I don't know, right? But then what happens is that the RAs, they're doing rounds, and they knock on the door, and then the alcoholic vapors jump out the room. And so now we have to call the police. The police will come, and depending on what the situation is, they may cite everybody in the room. That's a $500 citation. And then they're going to court. And then they're going to be fined $100 from the university for violating our student code of conduct the first time, $200 the second time, $300 the third time. And so we hold our students accountable. And so please understand that that is something that happens. The RAs, that process starts in October. They have a very clear understanding that if they don't do their job, they're not going to have one to do. They receive a free room. Some receive a $3,000 stipend, depending on where they live, because USH housing is 11 grand. They receive a free room there as well. And so I'm not going to, pay for something and train the staff if they're not going to do their job. And they have a very clear understanding. And if you have a student who you think would be a great RA, have them start applying in October. I always encourage them to apply, and then if they don't want it, they can always say no. But they can never change it around when it's too late and they say, oh man, I wish I would have, right? But the RAs will do their job. They're there to create a conducive environment. My biggest concern with young people drinking to the point of inebriation is the fact that they think that it's a good time to have sex. Not a good idea. I'm going to be talking with your student that consent is imperative and that they cannot be under the influence. We have sexual assaults that happen on this campus, they happen off campus, and we as parents and as students need to work together to eradicate that. And I'm going to tell your student, listen, use your text. If you really are that, interested in having sex with somebody, you need to text them, or you need to talk to them, and you need to get it in writing, and it's either yes or no. Because sure is not an answer. I'm also going to be encouraging your students to abstain from that. Like, you do not have to get naked with another individual. Focus on what you're here to do. But it happens on our campus, and I am not going to say that it doesn't. Because I need your help to make sure that you're having these conversations with your student. I have a daughter coming here. I don't want that to happen to her, and I have a son at home, he's 14. I would not want any of your sons to be accused of that, and I don't want any of your daughters to be victimized by that. And so let's work together to make sure we can stop that. How many of you here have students who smoke or vape? Okay, thank you. How many of you, where are my weed smokers? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you right now what I think is really funny, because you guys, everybody's sitting here like, yeah, no, not my kid. This afternoon, I'm going to ask you saying, we're going to have like 80 students stand up. And then I have them sit down real quick, because they're like, what? You smoke? I smoke weed? You smoke weed? Oh, okay. And then all of a sudden, they're all connected, right? We've got a lot of drugs on this campus as well. And we're not the only one. There are drugs, this is pervasive throughout the country, all right? And if you think it's not happening, it is happening. There is not a paper towel holder long enough stuffed with dryer sheets that is going to mask that smell. The fan out the window with Febreze, Old Spice, anything else ain't gonna help you either. All of those little knick-knack things that people are saying, oh yeah, you can put this on and it'll just take it out of the air. Wrong. When my staff smells it, the first thing that they are required to do is call public safety. They don't even investigate it. They smell it, they call public safety comes over. If they find the marijuana on your student will be arrested. It's an automatic misdemeanor. Yesterday, there was a young lady in our session, and she tried to tell me, because clearly I am clueless and I don't know what I'm doing, that marijuana is decriminalized in Pennsylvania. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. She's like, no. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, where are you from? She's like, well, I'm from Philly. And I'm like, okay, well, in Philly, you pay $25 for a fine, and it's still criminalized, but you're in Chester County, and you'll get a $500 citation, arrested with an automatic misdemeanor, and then you're gonna get a $100 fine from us. So I would recommend that you don't bring your marijuana here. If you have students who think that they're gonna become entrepreneurs with that, not recommended either, right? We've had the DEA and FBI on our campus as well. We have undercover cops. We take this very serious. Westchester University is like none other, and I've worked at 3 other institutions in this country. And so I'm gonna tell you, we handle it, and it takes time, but we do deal with it. How many of you here have students who know how to do laundry? Okay, great. You know what? Even if they don't, no worries. We're going to teach them how to do it. And it's free. You now have your weekends. So when your student calls you and says, oh yeah, I'm bringing my laundry home, your response is like, no, you're not. Let's go to the laundry room, FaceTime me, and I'm going to show you how to use that machine, right? The best thing is that your student, we have, all of the washers come with a signaling system, so they can put their laundry in, go up to their room, and then they get a notification saying, your laundry is done. And then all they gotta do is go downstairs and get their laundry. And so they should not be coming home, you should not be doing their laundry, okay? We will help you. We will help them, we will help you. Technology is a beautiful thing, let's use it. How many of you here would allow your students' friends to vandalize your home? Yesterday, the same woman that I was telling you about with marijuana, she raised her hand. And she proceeds to tell everybody, all 300, 400, 300 something students. She's like, yeah, I would, I don't care. I hate my parents. And everybody looked at her like she was crazy. Because I did as well. But here's just an example of what I'm talking about. Not all students have a great appreciation for their parents, for whatever reason. But this is what we deal with. And I looked at her like she was crazy, because I'm like, yeah, you know what, you've seriously got some issues. I was like, but I told the student, and I told everybody in that room, let me tell you this, we will not tolerate it. We will bill you for that as well. And we'll also want to make sure which friends you allow to come up here, because if your guest vandalizes our property, we will hold you accountable, and then you can figure out how you're going to get your money from your friend. Because we're working on making sure that we can really, you know, especially in our traditional halls, we are doing a great deal of work there. I just inherited that area a year ago. And I've been working really hard at trying to recreate things, right? It's going to take time for us to do that, but we spend a lot of money in wanting to create an experience for our students. And so the other thing is that most of you in here, I'm assuming and speculating, are homeowners, but you have property that you value. We have homeowners in the borough of Westchester. As a councilwoman for Collegeville and president of council, which I am, we take property very serious, and we want our homeowners' property value to go up. And we want to make sure that people's property are respected. So please make sure that you talk to your students that when they're going uptown in Westchester, that they're not peeing on people's plants, or that they're not ripping things out or vandalizing other people's property. We all work very hard for what we own, and it's not fair. So please make sure that that happens. We have police in the borough, and they work with us, they inform us, and we want to make sure that everybody has a great experience here, and that we're constantly working on our relationship. So please help us with that. How many of you have students here that know how to clean a bathroom? Keep your hand up if they're in USH. Okay, so thank you. Your USH students need to clean, and I'm going to recommend this for your student this afternoon, that they clean the bathroom together for the first time. I'm an Army brat. My first job at the age of 13 was working for the Army overseas for summer, right? And they had us doing everything. We were cleaning the bathrooms. And so I have a very clear understanding of what clean is, but clean is relative. And so we want for your student to be successful, and they need to work together at understanding what clean is in their living space. I'm going to tell you right now, your student will call you and talk about how dirty their roommate is. I was at a council talking to one of the counselors for my son, and she's like, oh my God, I remember you. You were at Westchester, you were talking about the bathroom. She's like, oh my God, let me tell you, my daughter was living in Commonwealth, and her room, they were all dirty. Girls are just, ugh. They were shaving where they made their smoothies. Who does that? And I had to replace the shower curtain 5 times. And I'm like, oh wow. So here's what I would recommend you do. If you're living in USH, you might want to buy more than one shower curtain. Because if they're not cleaning, you're going to be replacing that more often. All right? So just keep that in mind. Give yourselves a round of applause for please responding to all of this. Thank you.
Okay, so I know that we're running short on time, but I want to make sure that we talk about Drop and Go because it's a really awesome program. So the dates and times are on this slide, and you're also going to get more information in the mail. But this is an opportunity for you to come as many times as you want during the time frames and days on there, bringing as many cars and bring as much as you can, bring everything if you can, and set your student's room up prior to move-in day. Your student can't stay when they participate in this program, but they come, you all go into the space, set it up, and then you can leave and come back on move-in day to a less chaotic day of having to make sure you make your student's bed. So you're going to get lots of information about this, and if you can bring a hand truck, please do so because it will just help our day go a lot faster.
Alrighty, I like sharing good ideas. This dad I was in my office, and he was doing laps around this. And I'm like, oh my God, can I take a picture? I did, and I just want to share that. He worked for Sodexo. And you can get the cellophane at Costco or BJ's if you're interested in doing this. I'm going to tell you, he did one trip. Here was the final product. He rolled it up, done, right? So just something to consider.
So Friday, August 23rd is the day we know you're waiting for. That's the day that your student gets dropped off and stays with us for orientation and for the start of their semester. So the residence halls are open to all of our first-year students. There is a staggered move-in schedule because of the elevators. We need to make sure the traffic flow is not, jam-packed. And we just ask that you follow that schedule as best you can. There'll be tons of volunteers. Last time I checked, over 200 volunteers assisting on that day. That's the day that the drivable sidewalks are opened up for our USH properties, and it is faster than a McDonald's drive-thru, okay? You will get the stuff out of your car, the student comes in, the volunteer takes the stuff up to the room, you go park, catch the bus to come back to campus, and you'll be back within 15 minutes or less. It is fast. okay? So just make sure that you follow the schedule appropriately and just please remain calm. It is organized chaos, but emphasis on the organized. We got this. So just trust us and just, you know, if you have questions or concerns, let us know on the day, but it's gonna be an awesome day. No clouds, no rain, sunny skies, a breeze. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Alrighty, and one of the last things is this. If you are ever concerned for your student and they're not answering your telephone call, please feel free to call public safety and let them know that you're concerned. Here's the number. What will happen is public safety will do a well check. They will call my staff. We will walk up to your student's room, knock on the door, see how they're doing, and ask them to return your phone call. So again, you have resources, and I'll be letting your student know that they need to answer your phone call. And in closing, I just want to thank you for allowing your student to have the experience of living on campus. I also ask that you give us 6 weeks. It's going to be hard. Your student is going to be transitioning. You're transitioning. Give them 6 weeks. All right? They're going to call you for the first couple of days telling you they're going to be crying, telling you they hate it here. Why are they here? Why are you making them be here? It is a process. All right? Please give us 6 weeks. And if you have a concern, please call us because we will make sure that your student gets connected. All right? We're here for you. We want to help you in this transition as well because it is a big deal. They've been with you for 18 years and now they're sleeping somewhere else. It's huge. All right? And so we're here. Thank you so much for your time. And Chloe and I will remain up here and we have an orientation leader that has some more instructions.